Hello there. I'm the Observer, and we are back in this world where we talk about
Yup.
things in Minecraft. And I'm back with the President of the United States of America, DC.
Hello. I in fact am that awesome. He is correct.
Last time we were talking about Peter Pan and how lovely that was, and all that thing, and
Oh
all that
yes, we
lovely.
quite enjoyed that
Yeah.
conversation. It's very
But
nice.
now we are going to be talking about a new thing today. DC, would you enlighten us on what this new thing will
Oh
be?
yes, absolutely. Today, because I discovered that the Observer got to watch Oliver for the first time, we are going to be talking about musicals.
Ah,
Musicals,
yes.
musicals, musicals of all
Yeah.
kinds. To start us off, Observer, you should tell us about your musical experience at Oliver. I think that should be the starting. Tell us, how did you enjoy Oliver?
I thought it was rubbish.
Did you care to elaborate, or was it just trash?
I don't think I'll elaborate later. Like the performances were good, but however, the actual play itself is just kind of like, wow, this is kind of bad.
That's so funny. All right,
Yeah.
so I am a big musical theater person. I haven't seen a whole bunch, but there are quite a few that I very, very much enjoy. Um, so I'm curious to know, Observer, do you have a favorite musical? Because I'm not
I,
sure.
I don't necessarily think I have like a favorite musical, although I do enjoy a few musicals here and there.
All right, what you got for me? What are some that you've enjoyed?
I can't really say at the moment because I'm trying to go to sleep. There we go.
Oh,
Musicals. I'm experienced with like a bunch of like animated musicals. I've seen a few
okay,
like
okay,
classic
good, good.
musicals. I've seen a few. I've seen or listened to a few on stage musicals, and I've seen a few movie musicals here and there. So
Okay, cool.
I know a few. I guess we'll figure out what ones we like.
Okay, so let's start with. I think we got to start with the classics. Let's start with live theater. Let's start with
Right.
that.
All
So,
right.
Observer, what is your experience with live theater?
Um,
Because
haven't haven't really experienced a lot of live musical theater. I'd say
mm,
I've seen a few, but it's only like really the classic stuff. I haven't really seen anything on Broadway. If
what?
you're asking me that.
Okay, what classics did you see?
I think it was like the Pirates of Panzam, Fiddler on the Roof,
Yes.
and what
Woo!
else? Oh, and Oliver, but we don't. But we'll talk about
We
that
don't talk.
later.
All right, I guess I should say my musical experience now, huh?
Yes.
The set. All right, so the first musical I ever watched was Pirates of Penzance. I'm pretty sure. Um, but I also got to be in Fiddler on the Roof, and that was really fun because that kind of moved me into like the joy of getting to hear people sing in musicals. I got to watch the movie afterwards, and I really loved it.
Hmm.
And since then, it's been a mixed bag. Like some musicals I've watched, I think the thing about musicals is like you got to have good music because the music either enhances or destroys the story you're trying to tell. So if
Yeah.
you have awful music, it's gonna like if you have like even mediocre music often, it just makes it way worse.
It's like if you have good music, but the story doesn't really work with the music, then it kind of falls apart. But if you have a good story, but it's weighed down by some bad music choices, then
Yeah, which is
yeah,
unfortunate. But
yeah,
that's kind of the cool balance though. You got to get that.
yeah.
So after that, I think my next big musical that I really really loved was Newsies.
Uh,
Newsies was so much fun. Love that. I got to watch the Disney version, and
yeah.
I stinking loved Newsies.
Mm.
Jack was awesome. Jack was the best. I loved. Okay, granted, it was an all male cast, and like,
Oh, only one
so
female.
only one. Well, actually, there were two. Um,
Okay.
I don't remember if they ever had a conversation, but because all the theater I had ever been in, like, had always been primarily female, like female based, and so I was like, this is such a cool like show, but
Mhm.
like we're never gonna be able to do this show because no guys ever turn out for musical theater.
Yeah.
It's like, no! So that was like, distressing. But
Anyways,
I did enjoy watching it.
I should
Huh?
probably like plug like the leak that's in our basement because some drowns are coming
Probably
out of
should.
it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
please do that. Please do
yeah,
that.
probably should at some point. But for now, I'm just gonna leave it until. Oh wait,
Yeah.
I think I need to leave him out before he kills our villager. And he's got me in the
Smart
corner.
ideas were
Come out,
not
mate.
had.
Come out, mate. Oh, dang it. He's not. Dang it. I have to kill him with the pickaxe. There we go.
But no, so that was a big one. And then I found, we found Hamilton, which I know you've seen before
Yeah,
because
I've
I
seen that.
made you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I also watched Hades. Well, no, actually first, my grandmother took me to see The King and I live. That was like my first full-scale musical. Like the set was moving. Like they had like costumes. Like it was big. It was bold. It was beautiful. I have not seen the movie version of The King and like the story was okay, but like it was just the fact that like I'm in the middle of this theater watching
Yeah.
this set, these columns move. Like it moved. Observer, it moved.
Yeah.
After that, I found Phantom of the Opera, which is a classic. I really want to see that. And for whatever reason, people in my life who do not like musicals got to see Phantom of the Opera live. That was really fun. And then the latest one that I got to see live was Hadestown, and that was gorgeously well done. We drove all the way out, me and my friend, to Texas for that one, which was kind of dumb, but like we really wanted to see it. So
yeah, should have been easy with your presidential clearance day.
oh yeah, but it was really fun. It was really fun. I really loved big musical theater. I loved all the costumes. I loved the action. That one was probably the most beautifully choreographed piece of musical theater I've ever seen in my entire life. It was so gorgeous.
Anyways, that's nice to hear. Anyways,
what's your history / what do you love about film musicals or film musicals?
I think like one of the more classic forms of like film musicals, it would be like the Disney musicals, like that.
Definitely.
Music was a big part of like classical like Disney from like like back in like Snow White and stuff. But it wasn't really until like the Renaissance and like the late Dark Ages where they started to like actually like make it musical theater, that kind of thing. Like use the music to enhance the story instead of just having a musical number for some reason.
Yeah, because you have earlier films like 101 Dalmatians and Rescuers and like all those ones, which really don't have any like their music is fine, and you have like stuff like Fantasia, which is all music, but it wasn't really musical theater, I think, until the Renaissance, when they really had a set formula. Though in Sleepy Beauty, they did have some music.
Yeah, they did.
Cinderella
They did
too.
have, but like the thing is, there wasn't like I'm not saying that not everything before the Renaissance was just like a song here and song there. There were some attempts at musicals, but for the most part, it was just mostly like let's just not have like use music. Let's just have a musical number here just because.
Yeah, it was definitely less thought through. It's interesting with hearing musicals now. A lot of the musicals are like Disney on Ice, or they actually made musicals out of it, like The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Got a like more hardcore musical. The thing with movie musicals is they only have to film it once. Yeah. And so that actually changes the types of songs that movie musicals can do versus actual musicals can do. Because if you tried to do like the same range and the same strain that you put on vocal cords for like, at least I heard this. I don't know if it's true or not, but if you put the same like for instance, Let It Go, like you like trying to sing that, belt that out, like on stage live every night, like I'm sure you could do it, but like that's a lot of strain on your voice, because you have those different eras. You have like the Dolly Parton, not Dolly Parton, Barbara Streisand era, with like Hello Dolly. You had like all those different ones, like the older musicals, like Singing in the Rain and stuff like that, My Fair Lady, which were really
Mm-hmm.
big. And then you came
Yeah.
into and like there were musicals in between that. Little Shop of Horrors is one of them, which
Yeah.
is always so funny. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Guys and Dolls was from the 50s, but even in modern day, like you do have those ones, but then you also
Yeah.
have better ones like The Greatest Showman or especially La La Land. La La Land,
Yeah.
I think, was kind of
Mm-hmm.
amazing in that it kind of brought back that old musical theater kind of feel, like big
Yeah.
productions, big sets, like they're having who knows how many actors dance
Yeah.
together, and like it knew its style. It's like
Uh-huh.
we are going like
Gotcha.
this is Los Angeles, but like we're also bringing in that blues and that jazz, and like they,
Alright.
from what I've seen, told their story pretty well, and they did it well within a musical. So it can be done, but it
Yeah.
definitely is. There definitely is some. It's hard to be done well,
Yeah.
and I've seen it done poorly. um,
Uh-huh.
did I ever tell you about the worst musical I have ever watched in my entire life?
Oh, please do it. Do it.
All right. It was the best. It was simultaneously the worst and the best because like it just it it was so bad. It was like this is fantastic. Like
Yeah.
I cannot describe this anyway. So this was back when I was in high school, and I decided because I was trying to make friends that I would do this musical thing, and so my violin teacher had suggested, hey, like some kids from some of my students and I are going to be playing in this musical that's directed by like my cousin or whatever. You should come. I'm like, that's so cool. I'm going to do that. And then I was like, I'm going to invite my friends because I want those. And so I had no clue what it was about, nothing. So I ended up taking them to this musical, and the best way I can describe it, because it was all they wrote it. They wrote the musical. They wrote the music.
Yeah.
And it was like I was watching an elongated series of cat posters. I think that's the only way I can describe it.
Oh my goodness.
Because the plot was so odd. Like it was like they were trying to handle a bunch of different issues, and so they jumped from one issue to the other. Like I don't even remember what the plot was about. I just remember this one time, this guy like came on stage and like stabbed a man, and he's like, "This is all your fault, though. This is society. I wouldn't have to do this if I weren't going hungry. This is what happens when you like don't care for those." And I'm like, "Okay, Mr. Cat Poster, like, that's fine." But like they would sing, and like I remember this. They had one girl who was supposed to be the main guy, and she started singing, and and it's supposed to be this like really deep emotional moment. And for the life of me, I could not stop cracking up. And so I'm sitting there in the back of the stage, trying not to laugh during this really serious and emotional moment. I'm like sniggering, and everyone's looking at me like, "What is wrong with you?" My friends are like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
Because this is hilarious, and I can't laugh because that's really rude. But like, I don't know. It was just like in the back, like it was a really nice set. Like, in the back they had a.
I think I know which musical you're talking about because I think I was there.
You do. You were there too.
Yeah.
And because I like, there was the guy with the blender, and like inexplicably at one point he's just like, you look over and like he's put like a magazine in the blender, and he's like bopping his head back and forth as he's like pretending to blend it. It was just so odd. You're kind of like, cool.
Yeah.
This is great.
All right. So I guess should we? So I guess we should like kind of segue into I kind of like don't like in musicals.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think I'll use like two examples here because one example I think is pretty good, but the idea behind like the musical is kind of like bizarre, and what I think is like kind of like not good, and we've already talked about it. So I'm going to be talking about like two separate musicals, but it's going to be Oliver the musical and Roller Coaster the musical from the Phineas and Ferb episode because they
Oh,
both,
fun! I
they,
love that one.
yeah, because I think they both kind of share a similar problem when it comes to telling their musical whole aspect.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
a
go for it.
huge problem that I have with, like, say, a musical is when, like, the musical does not forward the story in any way. Like, that's
Okay.
kind of like my huge problem with, like, Oliver, and that's kind of like a similar problem I have to, like, Phineas and Ferb the roller coaster. But the thing with Phineas and Ferb the roller coaster is it's like they're trying to put its songs in a story that the entire function was to be efficient as possible. So when you add songs to it, it's not always going to work because Phineas and Ferb the roller coaster, the original one, was supposed to be a pitch of what the show was about.
Yeah.
So when you decided to add musicals, you're trying to like slow it down and with like musical numbers and have them like talk about it. Granted, they're really good musical numbers. I will say
They
that.
are fantastic musical
Yeah,
numbers.
they're fantastic. It's just that I think it doesn't really work in the musical's favor because it doesn't really forward the plot in any like motion. It's just kind of like hey, you know the thing I usually say in one catchphrase. Well, I'm just gonna drag it out for an entire musical number.
Yeah, well, I
And then
think
we
isn't the whole reason that they made a musical thing was because like that was the only episode of Phineas and Ferb that didn't have a musical number in it.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's I mean, technically, there was another music. No, actually, maybe. I think there are Phineas and Ferb episodes without musicals, but
They
I
always have
can't think
music
of them.
though. They always have music.
Yeah, they
That is
always
like
have
from the
music.
creators.
Yeah, I know. It's just that for roller coaster, like
Oops.
if you added like one song into it, then I think it'd be fine. But they added like a bunch of songs, so obviously like the whole plot of the episode just kind of grinds to a halt because you know,
Yeah, fair. Fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then we get to Oliver, and the problem with Oliver is that it has the same problem as Phineas and Ferb the roller coaster, where there's just like a song that gets across only one piece of information and then repeats that information over and over again. Like there was like one song when Oliver gets into like the gang and he meets the ringleader and he's like, hey, you see this? You should learn how to steal, young boy. And then he just repeats that song over and over again. And you would think in like a musical theater you would want to have like Oliver join in the song, so like the teachings of like the ringleader would be solid. But they don't do that. They just have the ringleader say that thing over and over again. A huge problem that's a problem with like a lot of Oliver songs is that they're just there because and they only just get across like a small amount of information, like in like
True.
like a lot of the songs do in Act 1. And then in Act 2, we have a bunch of emotional songs for characters who in Act 1 only just like seem to be like fun and goofy and stuff. But then I was like, where was this in Act 1? Like, if you were going to have this, you should have like at least set them up in Act 1. Because the thing with Act 1, that's your setup. If you had like some characters that you need to set up well in Act 1, then you should probably done it in Act 1. When you do it in Act 2, it's just gonna seem like it's gonna come out of nowhere. Because it did come out of nowhere.
I get you.
There's also some other criticisms I have of Oliver, but that's like my main criticism is how weird it is as a musical. It's just like it doesn't really get forward like the characters at all.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like even Oliver, he only gets like a few songs, and he never really seems like that interesting of a character.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So, in your estimation, what would have been the greatest thing to help Oliver be better?
I think the greatest thing you could have done is like actually just actually just put songs in Act 1 that aren't just all like, haha, we're just singing a silly song now, haha, and actually put some
Right.
like, emotional balance in Act 1, because Act 1 is supposed to be your setup. It's not supposed to be like, haha, we're doing like fun silly things. It's like, no, you need to like actually like get me invested in the characters. Why should I be invested?
Like generally, I think this is true for most plays and stuff like that. Like whenever there's like oftentimes there'll be like one act is better than the other, and and it's mostly because there's a tonal shift of some kind.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to like deal with the tonal shift, and it's not always handled terribly well,
Yeah.
depending on the thing. So
Yeah.
I can totally get that. I totally see
Yeah.
that.
It's just kind of like a thing where it's like music should be there to enhance your story, not to like drag it down. Like not to like just be about the music. If it's only just about the music, then it's kind of like a bit of a waste, because as a musical is supposed to be like story and music combined together to invest in the story, I'd say.
I feel like though some people would disagree with you because a lot of people sometimes they'll just listen through the soundtrack kind of deal.
Yeah,
Like they
I could see that. Like if the songs are catchy enough, I'm fine. It's interesting how it'd be fine for them to just listen through the soundtrack. I'm just saying it's more of a thing where it's like if it's a musical, like you probably want all your things firing at all cylinders instead of just
Yeah, that's
having
true.
like just having like one song that just doesn't fit.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting too to see how different types of musicals handle the songs, because some of them they're like, you know, they're the musicals where like you have the musical aspect and then you talk and there's story, and that's a lot more of the older ones. But then you get to musicals like Phantom of the Opera or The Dolls of New Albion, which is personally my favorite musical of all time. And those ones are just, or Hamilton, and it is just straight music. Music is a story, music is a plot, music is just all of it. There is like any talking, any things like that, all come musically. So that's how you figure everything out. And so it's interesting to hear the like how prominent should music be within a musical? Is it okay for it to override the story sometimes? Like
I
so
think
that's interesting.
I think personally, if you're going to have like a musical, well, then it should service like the story instead of just being like a fun little song. That's just kind of like what I value in like musicals for the most part. There's also I get drowned here with a trident. That's weird.
You getting drowned?
No, there's a drowned here with a trident. Like I don't know why there's so many drones with tridents over here. Must be a weird thing, I guess.
I think since we talked about like the story aspect and the music aspect, let's talk production. Let's talk because that's a huge part of musicals. Like especially with your bigger musicals, you know, like Phantom is the first one that comes to my mind because you got that giant chandelier that's dangling down, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and like you think of Lion King, think Little Mermaid, you think grandiose, you think like even within the musical productions, like it's big, it's bold, and like I guess the question is like because musicals always tend to be bigger budget because like I don't know, like they always seem more grandiose than like a lot more of theater, and especially since it's like black box theater. And I'm wondering, is that just like the style that came with like when musicals first started getting popular and people started doing them in earnest? Was that just how they did them, and it was just like, oh yeah, if we're going like music, we're going big or going home? Or is that like
my guessing it's kind of like a more like recent thing of it being like more of a show stopper kind of thing, I think. But it could be about it could be back then, and like maybe it's probably something that was made like back in like the 80s of them trying to be more grandiose and stuff.
It's not all the stories they told were grandiose. Like Hello Dolly is not necessarily like, it has grandiose scenes and stuff like that, but Barbara Streisand just makes everything grandiose because she be real elegant.
I think musicals inherently have a level of like the more larger in life kind of thing.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And I think it comes into with that truth of the matter is everyone's singing to themselves, and everyone's just like, oh yeah, this happens kind of deal. Like
Yeah.
it's a very much a you're suspending your disbelief a little bit for the
Yeah.
sake of the story already.
Yeah,
So
if you're going to sing, then you might as well go all out.
we're doing this, and we are committing to it, kind of deal.
Anyways, oh look at those horde of zombies over there. That's fun. Anyways, good work on the house, DC.
Yep, it's coming along, right? We're gonna
Yeah.
have a house. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
It'll be cool.
Yeah,
I'm
me-
gonna have to find some sand at some point, but like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
who
Anyways.
cares about those details? Oh, am I gonna have to mine for some? I'm gonna have to mine, hiss, and scoff and frustrate. Do you have a musical that you've ever seen that you're just kind of like, that's a really pretty set? I just really like that set. Or that costume,
I
or
don't
something
think
like that.
I said I haven't really gone into like big Broadway stuff, so unfortunately I
Yeah.
have not.
Aw, sadness. Man, I feel like I need to get you into some more Broadway theater, because I know you like more like or at least last time I checked, you your music style seemed to be a lot more like
Hmm.
like smooth, soft tones, you know, like the
Yeah,
game backgrounds or like jazz and like different things
yeah,
like that.
kind of
And
stuff
so
like that. You know.
yeah. So I feel like I have some musical choices that you may or may not like.
Okay.
I feel like the Wicked Witch of Oz. The Wizard of Oz. We didn't talk
Oh
about
yeah,
the Wizard of
we have to
Oz.
talk about that one.
We gotta talk
That
about the Wizard of Oz.
like that's kind of like the movie is kind of cool. Like if we ignore like the behind the scenes drama of that movie, it's a
There's
really
behind the
good.
scenes drama.
Oh yeah, it was
Hold up.
like a nightmare to make.
Oh gosh. What's neat about the Wizard of Oz is like pushing into that movie musical thing. It really was one of the first ones to ever experiment with like,
Color and that kind of stuff.
yeah, but even just like, you know, like maybe they did this with other movie musicals, but like, you know, playing around with like, hey, we are doing a movie, and with that, using that as our medium, how can we make our medium contribute to our story as much as possible, kind of deal.
Yeah,
And so that's what I really, really enjoyed about it. Was like they knew what medium they were working in, and so they tried to work to that to the best of their ability. And yet, it's still a story that you can tell on a children's theater, you know, like on one
Yeah.
of those shows. So it's just
Mhm.
really cool.
yeah.
I didn't
I
realize
like-
they had a troubled production history, though.
I guess I could talk about like this one I've seen a bit. It's have you ever heard of like In the Heights?
Yes, I love In the Heights.
Yeah, I watched them. I watched the movie. I watched the movie recently, and it was pretty
Yes.
decent. I heard like the movie is like has a bit of elements that didn't work, but didn't work as a full adaptation. I've heard, but as a musical adaptation, I think like they did the musical numbers pretty well. I guess if I had to like say if a musical that I like a bit, I kind of like In the Heights. That's a good
In the
musical.
Heights. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
What did you like about it? Like, I'm
I don't know. I
I'm
don't know. I'm just kind of like I just kind of like it for some reason. I don't know why.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, some of those sequences are gorgeous. Like when he's looking out the window and you see all the dancers like in the frame,
Yeah.
like in the
Yeah.
window. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Well done to whoever did that. Yeah. In the
Yeah.
Heights is very good. Would you be interested seeing that one live?
Yeah. If it is live, sure. Why not?
Yeah. My favorite musical currently is called The Dolls of New Albion. And
Uh-huh.
not Broadway. It's made by a guy called Paul Sherpa. It's all on YouTube. And it's one of those musicals where like it's all singing.
Mhm.
But I love it because it kind of talks about like thematically, it talks about the failure of love between generations. It was so much fun because it
Yeah.
it played with like the narrator who can see everything, tell everything. She's trying to warn her characters, but like she's also sharing this world. Like it played with each generation, and like they characterized each one really well. I loved the different, like they had a little bit of a range of musicals. Like they kept bringing back all the themes, and like it was like everything tied together. Like it was just to date, I've never seen it put on I've never seen it. I have no idea what the costuming would look like. I have no idea what any of it looked like. But like, it's just such a well told story through song, and I think that's what
that's
music
nice.
ought to be. Yeah. So that's my favorite thus far. It might change. It has changed in the past, but
yeah, okay, that seems reasonable.
I have to go find glass, don't I?
Yeah, it's on the sand. You have sand.
I do have sand?
Yeah, we live next to a beach.
Oh, well, when you put it like that.
Anyways,
all right. So I think we've covered a good
Yeah.
amount of bases. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I guess we could talk about like musicals we would like to see or something like that.
Ooh, yeah.
I guess we would like to see about, because a lot of like
Yeah.
musicals are like based off of pre-existing material just done in like a musical format.
You were not wrong.
I think one thing I think that'd be interesting to see in like a musical would be I kind of want to see like a fighting game get translated into a musical, mainly because fighting games usually have a lot of characters that have their like own stories, but they don't usually get the spotlight in their own in the games they come from. So I think it'd be interesting to see like I take like a few like fighting game characters and put them into like a musical format and see how that works.
I personally, I'm trying to think of a series or something that I would think would make a good musical. You know what? I would kind of be down for an Avatar: The Last Airbender musical. I think because I've seen some of the, because I've seen some people online what they've done. It's just like on their own like fan things. They've made songs. Like I've heard one about Princess Yue. I've heard one from Azula, and like they're good. Like they are legitimately good. Like they could find people to do the talent, and I feel like that would be gorgeous on stage. Like you know, I feel like they could do so much with it, and like it'd be a little like but it's Avatar: The Last Airbender. But like there was already music in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and so like. You get some of these people who really care, you could make something really cool.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting.